Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Amy Brownell, and every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, I go live here on YouTube talking about all things CFO and advisory related. So, today, what we're going to do is talk about my journey to CFO and how that journey can help you, what I learned along the way that you can take that information from and make changes in your own life if that's what you want to do. So, as I said, I am live on YouTube every Tuesday, and I would really love it if you would hit that subscribe button so you are made aware of anytime I go live or drop new content. Definitely want to make sure that you are up to date on all things CFO. You can also join my Facebook group. There's a link for that in the description of this post. And then, lots of really cool conversations happening in that Facebook group. Lots of people in there from different backgrounds, some CFOs, some people just starting out doing bookkeeping, something for everyone. So, and of course, I'm in there answering questions. All right. So let's dig right into this. So many of you may wonder why Amy? Why is she here? How did she get here? What caused her to do this? Well, I got to tell you, I've had the dream to be a CFO since I was a little girl. My dad and I, we used to sit and talk about numbers, stocks, how companies were doing, how we thought it was going to be the best way to grow profit, to grow revenue, all of that fun stuff. So I knew very early that I was going to be a CFO. I mean, also, I got to tell you, that big paycheck in the corner office didn't hurt at all. So I decided to go on, get my bachelor's in finance, and I landed my first job. And that job, I loved it. I can't even tell you how happy I was, how happy my dad was that I got this job at a really big financial institution that I tell you, it was like having your dream come true. Although I wasn't quite there yet. But I soaked in everything there was to know at this job. I mean, I watched leadership. I watched my manager. I paid attention to earnings calls. I paid attention to how things were being told, like how did the financial executives in that company, how did they translate those that information into words that people in the company, so like during town hall meetings, how they could understand it. I was literally soaking up everything. It was crazy. And then, great news, I got a promotion. And that was awesome. I literally was able to fast track my learning. I was able to learn from a different set of people, different skill set. I was able to really dig in and understand what was happening behind the numbers. So after a while there, I changed jobs a few more times, always improving my title and improving my pay, which is obviously what you want. And that was amazing. I was learning the whole time. I was really having fun with what I was doing. I felt like I was really helping companies. Felt like I was really helping not only the people I was working for, but my stakeholders, the people who were depending on me for information. I was helping them understand, okay, what does this mean? How can we affect this number? What is the best approach? What happens if we do that? I loved it. I loved it. But I got to be honest. there were some cracks starting to emerge. There were some things that I was beginning to grow a little bit frustrated about. Things that, honestly, I had never really thought of before, that it was like they were brand new things, but looking back, they were probably there the whole time. So things like management's lack of direction, or maybe better said, changing direction on a dime. So you're working on something and then bam, it's no longer relevant. You stop what you're doing and you work on something else. And that just keeps on happening. So that was frustrating. The fact that I wasn't getting paid for the value that I was creating in the company. So I know some of you can relate to this. My salary was just a little portion of the good I was doing, of the revenue that I was growing, of the profit I was growing. All of what I was doing was just a little bit. If you looked at it like that, I was working for a steal, like they were stealing work from me. And then finally the hours were starting to creep up. I was working at that point 60-hour weeks. And I got to tell you, the long commute, the uncertainty, it felt like I was always worried about my job. I never knew if I was safe. I never knew if layoffs were going to impact me. It didn't feel great. And then out of nowhere, speaking of layoffs, I was laid off. And that was one of the worst feelings in the world. I mean, I knew layoffs were coming. I had helped calculate the numbers of how much savings we needed. But I never in a million years thought I was going to be impacted. I thought, I am loyal. I am hardworking. There's no way that they can get rid of me. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was part of the layoff, and I got to tell you, it was a bit difficult to find another job. In fact, it was so difficult, my husband and I decided to move from San Diego, where we were located, where most of my family was, to New York City, where luckily I got a job right away, a job that I loved, very high up on the ladder. I continued climbing that ladder rung by rung. It was fabulous. It was a great job in a big city. It was almost a dream. And then life happened. And, well, I guess maybe better said, death happened. So my dad's cancer was determined to be back. And the doctor said there was nothing else that they could do. We ended up having to put him in hospice. And so during that time between when I started that job and when my dad passed, I ended up making 12, 13 cross-country flights pretty much every week. I ended up having to manage all of the hospice care and doctors and everything that happened after his death. And just, it was a lot. There was a lot. That said, I kept working the entire time. And this is how I was rewarded. The day I got back, we had buried my dad the previous day. The next day, I went back to work and got demoted. Yeah, got demoted. It was not, how do I want to say? On one hand, it was surprising. On the other hand, maybe not so much. Sure, my work had slipped a little bit. I think anyone's would, given the circumstances. But to do it the day I got back, it just felt so icky and slimy and wrong. And that's when I really started thinking about, Is this what corporate America is? Is this what they're all about? Well, I decided to eventually move on, and I found the dream job, the CFO job. It was fabulous. It was, not too long after my dad had passed. I felt like it was everything I'd worked for up until that point in of my life coming to fruition. It was everything my dad had dreamed of. It was everything. And I went at that job like a tornado. I was everywhere doing everything. Had a seat at the table. I had a hand in strategy. I was getting paid a really good amount of money. But there were downfalls. There was a downside. For example, I started working 80-hour work weeks just to keep up with all the work. This was during COVID, so I had to I personally had to do layoffs. Tell people during COVID, when you know that there's no chance of them getting another job, hey, you're out of a job. It broke my heart every single time. Every single time. We had a board of directors who cared about one thing and one thing only, and that was revenue growth. They didn't care if at the bottom of the P&L we made money on that revenue growth. They just cared that we had revenue growth, which made it really hard to run a company in a way that makes sense financially if you don't care about profit. And I tell you, we should care about profit. We should care about profit. Those 80-hour work weeks, I spent trying to keep the business afloat because it was COVID. Everyone was struggling. And after all of that, I watched us declare bankruptcy anyway. So it was all for nothing. There was just so much stress, so much overwhelm. I was doing 3 jobs and working nonstop. Like I said, it was during COVID, so I was eating all 3 meals at my desk, and I was at times putting my head down on my desk, taking a quick little cat nap. I went for a period of like 3 months without going outside. And it really started affecting my health. I started losing my hair, and you can see I have a decent amount. So that was really hard. My husband was literally like, I feel like I'm watching you work yourself to death. Something's got to end. Something's got to stop. And he was right. He was right. If I continued on this path, it would go nowhere but down for me. So I made what was then the unthinkable decision. And if I'm being honest, looking back on it, still one of the most difficult decisions of my entire life. And I walked away from my CFO job. I walked away from the dream. And that had some consequences. It was hard. I had built my entire life around getting to this dream, and the dream was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And granted, I was there during COVID. Nothing was good during COVID. But I saw enough of how companies worked that I knew, I was confident saying, I can never, ever, never, ever work for a corporation ever again. I never want to be putting my life in someone else's hands. And I know it sounds dramatic. Maybe it is a little bit. But I never wanted to be put in a position where my income, what I'm able to do with my husband and for my family, I never wanted to put that decision in someone else's hands. I mean, they were the ones who decided, hey, Amy, we need you to work while you're on vacation at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum. Yeah, we don't care if you go in there at all. I didn't. We don't care if you miss out on Christmases and other big events. They didn't care one lick about how what they were asking me to do was affecting me. So I said enough. So if I'm being honest, I took about a year off and had to decompress, had to kind of get my bearings back about me. But when I resurfaced, I thought about what I wanted to do with my life. What I wanted to do was help people just like me, just like the people that I had worked with. I wanted to help them realize that getting to that goal, getting to that dream, isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. And even if it is, maybe it doesn't stay like that for long. I wanted to show them that there is a better way to create the kind of life, the kind of freedom that you want, that you don't have to work like a slave. Actually, I probably shouldn't have said that. I apologize. You don't have to work 24/7 to prove your worth. And you deserve to be paid more than these little pittance that companies give you. There is more out there. So I decided to launch the CFO and Advisory Academy. And I got to tell you, way more fulfilling than being a CFO. Although one could say I'm a CFO of my own company. But now what I get to do is I get to help bookkeepers, accountants, tax pros, corporate finance and accounting people. I get to help them exit the corporate life, build their business, and achieve what they've been looking for this entire time. I get to be a small part of their journey to success. So when I started the CFO and Advisory Academy, I went after two main groups of people. Those are the two groups that I had worked very closely with, the ones that I felt like were hit with glass ceilings, couldn't really bust through, and didn't really see a way out or forward. So like I said, those bookkeepers, tax pros, and then the corporate finance and accounting types. And it has been one of the most fulfilling aspects of my life. It is watching someone who was at a dead-end job go from that job to making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a client a month. Actually being able to take time off and enjoy time with their family. Watching people who are struggling in bookkeeping. You know, bookkeeping it's a great, very necessary job. But unfortunately, there are some business owners who just don't value it. So it's really hard to get paid what you're worth. Who knows what's going to happen with all of this AI and everything, all of the outsourcing and offshoring. And there's a lot going on. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I know that most of the people that I work with want to have a plan B. They want to be prepared just in case. Nobody wants to be laid off their job like I was. So this is what I hope my story helps you with. I hope that it gives you the courage to look inside your own life and determine if this is what you really want, or if there's something better out there for you. If someone would have told me when I was a kid, when I was in college, that I was going to walk away from being a CFO, I would have straight up laughed in their face. I would have never in a million years imagined it. But I just didn't know what it really was. I didn't know how companies really operated. And once I learned, I pivoted and built something that is my own. And you can do that exact same thing. But you got to take a look at your life and make sure it's exactly what you want it to be. We have to be intentional with our time, with our decisions. Are all of the things that we're doing helping us get to that end goal, whatever that goal is for you? So that's that. Let's wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed my story. I've enjoyed telling it. Now, if you are watching the replay, be sure to drop comments down below, and comments or questions actually, and I will get back to you with answers. If you are interested, I'm having an upcoming challenge talking more about CFO and advisory services, exactly what the services are, how we can use tools to deliver them as efficiently as humanly possible while wowing our clients, and how to find and land those high-ticket clients. So if you're interested, you're going to want to join the Game Changer Challenge. The link is in the description of this video. And that is that. I will see you here next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, for another episode of the CFO Insider, where I tell you everything there is to know about CFO and advisory services. Bye.